China completely changed my life over the last 8 years. And looking back, it was absolutely insane to make the choice to come here. But at the same time, it's been the best thing that I've done with my life. And no, this is not one of those stories where I tell you at the end how I made my millions, show you my Lamborghini or maybe a nice Chinese EV because, of course, I'm in China, and then tell you, hey, just put your credit card details in here because, number one, well, I haven't got a Lamborghini, but a lot of cool things have happened to me and not so cool things in the last 8 years. And yeah, I'm doing pretty well for myself. But everyone that came to China and has been here for a while, especially like me who was here during COVID, which was a crazy time, they have some interesting stories to tell. So today I'm going to tell you my China story and how it influenced me as both a person and an entrepreneur, and how it might do the same thing for people that are interested in coming here as well. So let's take it back. It was 2018. I was about to graduate university with one of those Mickey Mouse degrees, which basically doesn't get you anywhere in the job market. And I didn't really know what to do, to be honest. I was graduating in a few months and then was looking around the university and I saw an advert at the time. There was a company called Intern China. They're still around now, actually, but they go under a different name of Pagoda Projects. They offered a government-funded, well, fully funded internship in China where you'd basically go to China, get some work experience for 2 months, and then you'd go home. I thought, sure, why not? China, interesting, maybe that can work for me. I might actually get something on my resume that was, going to give me a bit of an edge when I was actually going to apply to full-time jobs. So, I applied, and unsurprisingly to you, because I've been here for 7 years, I got the internship. A few months later, I was on the plane, came to China with a company which I chose, which was actually in Zhuhai, China, which is where I'm at now, right next to Hong Kong and Macau. To put it simply, I did the 2 months at the company, and the company, they're building products for themselves or the customers, doing all kinds of like entrepreneurial things. They were a trading company, they owned a factory, they did their own projects too at the same time. And I was just like, this is just a really cool way of learning to be an entrepreneur. And at the same time, by living in China, I like working at the absolute source of manufacturing. I thought if I could learn Chinese factories, it would basically, define my future career as an entrepreneur. At the end of the internship, I just asked the same company for a job. Simple as that. They offered me it, and I just took whatever deal they gave me, to be honest. It was like 0 holidays, really low pay, like $1,000 a month or something, but I didn't care. It was proper bare bone stuff, but hey, I was thinking, it doesn't matter, 2 years, I'm going to be like the next Wolf of Wall Street or something. It ain't going to matter. So actually, it took me a little over a year to get a visa and come back, but when I did, I came back in 2019 and started working for the same company. I had been working remotely for them for a year, but I came back full-time to Zhuhai in 2019. Moved into this crappy little apartment, which I can actually show you a video of. Actually, the apartment, I felt like I was just a complete baller because I actually had a nice view. I had a balcony, when British people, when they go on holiday, they just imagine the idea of like having a few beers on the balcony. It kind of it feels like you've made it in life, coming from the UK where it's just rainy or whatever. But anyway, a few months in China actually turned out to be a lot more difficult and tiring than I expected it to be. Long hours, low pay, not very many holidays at all, to be honest. Just piled on me after the months. I remember thinking there was a time where I had absolutely nothing. I couldn't even buy warm clothes. I was so tight on money. I had no idea that China even got cold. When I've been here the whole time, it's like a tropical climate, it's palm trees and whatever. So I didn't even budget to buy, some warm clothes or anything. Luckily, a mate sorted me out with this thermal jacket, which I still have 7 years later. Cheers, Simon. But nevertheless, things moved along. I was learning so much. I was taking Chinese classes at Aihua Mandarin in Zhuhai, which is still here. If you ever want to come to Zhuhai, go do Chinese class there. I was doing it twice a week. I was visiting Chinese factories all the time. Went to my first Canton Fair, which is interesting, the first time. The only problem was that within 6 months of being in China, COVID started. The whole world was just totally messed up, as you probably know if you're older than 6 years old. And in China, we just had no idea what was going on. It kind of felt like Dawn of the Dead in the beginning or something. I remember early 2020, streets were just totally empty. Everything was really great at the time. It was just absolutely mental. And online there was loads of videos of people collapsing in the street, which did turn out to be like total nonsense later, but because it was the first place to get hit by COVID, it was just like, well, what's going on? Why are the Chinese so secretive? Like, what's really happening in China? And I was here. It was all kinds of insane things going on for months and months. I remember them like blaming foreigners for bringing it into China, despite it being, probably from Wuhan. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I remember even one point in mid-2020, they locked up every African person in the entire region in a quarantine hotel. They literally went, I have a bunch of friends, they went knocking in their home, even the white people, the Chinese, they had no idea that there are even white African people, and just took them away to a hotel. It actually was so many kind of like crazy stories around the time. I was rejected from bars, restaurants, all kind of things just for being a foreigner at that time. Anyway, later, the whole world felt the shockwave of COVID. It was like maybe like 6 to 8 weeks after it started in China. I remember sitting there thinking for a few weeks, like, what am I doing here? This is just absolutely crazy. Like, should I go home? COVID hadn't even really hit England yet, but once the whole world started to feel it, it wasn't that easy for me to get home. Actually, like the flights at that time was like £5,000, which if you're American is like $8,000 US. And obviously I didn't have it. Like, I had like a super low salary. And if I did go home, I wouldn't be able to even find a job because everyone's trapped in their home. They can't even go see their family or friends. Meanwhile, actually living in China, even though things were tough, things started to open up after like 6 weeks. And life became like kind of normal. You could go to restaurants, bars, clubs, anything you wanted. So like you at least had like a pretty good lifestyle from 6 weeks in. And at the same time, as the world was in lockdown during 2020, people were just buying things. People got their stimulus package in America, and people were working online. And Chinese factories, they just exploded in terms of output, including the one that's owned by the company that we're working for, which we make wine racks at. We went from like one container every 23 days to one every 7, which was insane. We had like a pretty small team, people working a lot of overtime. And suddenly, everyone wanted to get into e-commerce in early 2020. Had so many customers like trying out so many different things, taking risks on all kinds of ideas. Some of it worked, but a lot of it at the same time, it didn't work. So I just got to see a lot of the things that did work and that didn't. And also like the stuff that we were doing ourselves was kind of like blowing up as well. We set up this brand called Magu Technology, which is in the weed industry in 2019, which was just before COVID. This is also the time when weed, in America also started to explode. It was legalized and everyone wanted to get in. Made our own product. We did this pressure vessel, which is for storing weed. We were selling equipment, lights, racks, all kinds of things. And within 18 months, we did like $500,000 in revenue, I think, from like a totally fresh company. And this was just a small side project for us. This is all while the world was just locked down. We were doing red light therapy with another customer. We were helping them doing their manufacturing, which we still do today. They went from like 5 or 10 employees to like 20 to 30 employees in the space of a year. It was really insane. And as the years went by, so did my life. Several years. I've been in China for many years now. Started to do better myself, learned so much more. And, really through the process of seeing people make mistakes and, working on projects that were successful and not successful at the same time, you kind of just learn about the things that you should and shouldn't do during ecom. And after a few years, like if someone came to me with something, it just kind of became obvious why something was going to work or not. So now I sit here and tell you, hey, put your credit card details in. No, I'm not going to do that. Right now, I'm basically just telling you about my experiences dealing with Chinese factories and brands over the years. And I think I have a lot of cool stories and a lot of things that, it's kind of a unique position that I've been in all these years. I just, I haven't really put them out yet. And there's also some stories too that if I ever leave China for good, it'd be really, really cool to share. I definitely would get in trouble if I share them now. So now, here I am to this day, yapping online about Chinese manufacturing and building brands, which is admittedly kind of niche. But really, like, I'm sharing this information because I kind of want to validate my experiences. If there's a lot of things that I have done and have learned that, if I left China tomorrow, nobody would ever know this. Like, I have taken a different route than I ever would have expected. Being here 6 or 7 years. Like I say, and I think I can help a lot of people when it comes to building products and going to market, and it's going to save people time and money at the end of the day. And for me, like, I think it's cool to share it, even if not that many people are interested in, how to communicate with Chinese factories. So I am. So yeah, and if you are interested in brand building, then maybe it's going to be relatively interesting to you. I mean, like I know I have been in my videos, if you have been watching, I've been focusing mostly on just sourcing in China, but actually I want to try and switch now to like general e-commerce building, and then use my experiences in sourcing as like an addition to that. I think that's going to be a little bit more interesting. Nowadays, nobody wants to work. Everyone wants to work for themselves. I mean, I get it. Like the social contract's definitely broken in many countries. But when I look online, I just don't see too many slow and realistic methods for making money. It's either you're gambling outright, or you're getting tricked by like some kind of insidious influencer into whatever they're push. And yeah, of course, I have my method which I want to try and share, which is actually you can build a brand if you have maybe 10,000 USD spare, which is not a lot of money to some people, or most people can save that up realistically. Trying to teach people that they can pick a product that suits your lifestyle, something probably that you already use, B, source that product in China as best as possible, obviously using all the methods that I put out there for sourcing in China. Make that product as best as you can, slightly better than whatever's out there, and then C, put together a brand that's extremely nice using all the technology we have nowadays, and just market it by putting your face on it, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and just sharing your journey of building the product and selling it and using it yourself in real life. And that's a really realistic way of making sales. And if you stick with that for a year or two, build smart, you'll get some sales. And I'm not going to say I'm going to make $1 billion, $1 trillion, but it's possible to make pretty good money on the side from doing this. And this is this is how a lot of brands start. They just start off small and then they grow. But at the same time, hey, if you want to do this, it's going to take a lot of work. It's something not everyone's going to tell you online. Like if you want to make money like online, it ain't going to be easy. That sounds like something that interests you, how to build your brand from scratch, how to build it smartly, how to market it properly, then, please click like, comment, and subscribe. And I do appreciate it if you watched it this far. I don't know, maybe my China story was a little bit too brief. I don't know, I have a lot of more cool stories that I can maybe share about my personal life. I feel like my channel is a little bit being too robotic and professional. So I think it's cool to put some more personal stuff out there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully, see you soon.